finally sitting down to share my birth story. I gave birth about 6 weeks ago, almost seven at the end of this week, but 6 weeks ago, I gave birth to my fourth baby, and I am so in love. We are so in love with him, but I'm so excited to share this crazy birth story. It's not like crazy in that way, but just crazy how everything all worked out. I've never actually sat down to tell my birth story, so I'm going to try not to be all over the place and get too excited with trying to go back through my birth. I am thinking about making another video where I can go through my birth stories now that I'm at 4 kids and finished and just kind of sharing my experiences. So if that's something you all want to hear, especially mamas that are at one baby, two baby, or mamas to be, definitely just let me know any questions you have. I do not coin myself or deem myself to be any type of mom expert. I am not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here sharing my experiences. I listen, you do what's best for you, you do what's best for your body, but I did get a lot of questions about this experience, and this was my first time doing something very different than the other three births. So I really wanted to share it, especially as somebody who's been a skeptic, and especially as someone who doesn't follow things just because it's a trend or trying to follow a movement because I'm on an agenda. No, I just made the decisions that were best for me and my baby, my family, and my health. I made a crazy decision to switch from the traditional hospital to a birthing center at 36 weeks pregnant. 36 weeks. That means I had 4 weeks left in my pregnancy, and I switched from my doctor was amazing. She was not the reason why I switched. I loved my doctor. But I switched from the traditional, again, like going to the hospital, doing the birth there, to doing the birthing center. And thankfully, my birthing center took me in. Super grateful for them because I was crossing my fingers. I was so nervous when I called them. But let's go back a little bit. So we do have to go back just a tad to my third birth, which is my son Apollos. So I want to make sure I say the names so that you can kind of associate the name with the birth, because I might say third birth or I might say Apollos, their name. So let's go back. So I and we don't have to go back far throughout the pregnancy or anything like that. But with Apollos, I did inquire about going to the birthing center. I chickened out because I was nervous about having the baby with no medicine. And then I was also nervous about having to go home pretty soon afterwards. In Washington State, it's a law that you cannot stay at the birthing center longer than 4 to 6 hours. So I was really nervous about those two things. So I did not follow through. I had a consultation. I chickened out. It wasn't covered by my insurance, but we'll get into that in a second. But anyway, so there was a few factors that made me chicken out. I stayed with my traditional, going to the hospital, the clinic I was at, everything like that, because I'm not a risk taker. I don't do things risque. Okay. I stay with what I know. So stay there. What ended up happening was the day that I went in to have him, so he came early. I was due November 2nd, 3rd, 1st, something like that. I ended up having him on October 26th. So when I went in to have him, I had been laboring all day. I finally felt my body really changing and the contractions were getting intense. I got to the hospital. They checked me in from the triage room. When I got into my actual room, so he was flipped somehow. I can't remember how they were telling me he was turned. I think he was like diagonal or something. And so they were like, we're going to have to turn him. And I was like, okay. And so what ended up happening was as I was getting the gown on, I had a few contractions standing up. When I had those contractions, that's when I think that he turned. So I was crossing my feet and grunting, which I did not realize I was doing in the moment. I heard the nurse say, let's prepare the room because she's crossing her legs. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I'm thinking I just have to use the bathroom. So I got dressed, I got in the bed, I laid on my side, and I took my glasses off and handed them to the nurse. And as soon as I took my glasses off and handed them to the nurse, Apollos, my third baby, came out. Like my body was just pushing him out. Insane. The nurse ended up delivering him. It was only one nurse in my room at the time, I think, one or two. So the nurse ended up delivering him, and I swear, like every nurse on that building ended up running into my room. The doctor obviously ended up coming. I was GBS positive, so I was supposed to get the medication. I didn't, but what happened was my water broke after Apollos came out, so he didn't get infected, which was a miracle. And so yeah, that I was crying. I never cried after a birth. I cried so hard after that one because it all just happened so fast. My husband wasn't in the room. We thought we had time because I was only 5 centimeters dilated when I got there. From the time that I checked into triage to the time that I had him, it was only like an hour. When I got in the room, I had him within minutes. Crazy, right? So I stayed at the hospital for 24 hours. And in that time that I was at the hospital, I had a really bad experience with the nurses. I left that hospital with a horrible attitude. I was so irritated. And I wasn't saying anything about it until my husband said something. And then I knew that I wasn't tripping. Sometimes it's like, is it me? Is it me? Maybe it's me. It wasn't me. It was them for sure, 100%. So I had a really bad experience with that, and I was super turned off, and I just did not like the feeling. So when I went in to this pregnancy, I was gonna do the birthing center, but again, kind of chickened out, backtracked, and I ended up falling in love with my doctor. I was like, if I have a doctor that I don't like, I'm gonna go to the birthing center. But then I met my doctor, and I absolutely loved her, and we just clicked, and it was amazing. So I stayed at the hospital. What happened around 36 weeks was about 35, I think, weeks. I had a false alarm, so I had to go to the hospital. I was having contractions back to back. I knew I was not in active labor, but I wanted to make sure that my labor was not starting early because I didn't want him to come that early. And so I went into the hospital, same hospital that I had my third baby at. And when I got up to the counter, there were at least anywhere from 9 to 12 nurses sitting there. Obviously, a slow night. When I got to the counter, it wasn't a warm reception, and it just brought me back to my third birth. I was like, oh, can't do this again. And I just was so turned off. Like they didn't speak. When I had Apollos, I had nurses walk in the room that wouldn't speak. They had an attitude. It was just, why are you acting like that? And I just had this baby. I don't know, but I so I, got to the counter, got checked in, just not friendly reception. And then when I went to the triage room, I didn't have him. I was just dehydrated. I didn't like the fact that the doctor was like calling over the phone. It was not personalized. It was not like I was important, I guess. I was just another number. I was just another patient. It was just like, okay, she's not having this baby. Get her up out of here. Deuces. And I was like, I do not want that. The one thing that I was saying that I wanted for my last pregnancy was peace. And I wanted to do it my way. And I just wanted it to flow. And I wanted to feel good about it. So when that experience happened, which I'm super grateful for, I was like, I got to switch. I talked to my doctor, got her blessing, told her I was switching. And she was like, you do you, sis. In the past, when I had mentioned birthing centers to my previous doctors, they were like, don't do it. You could die. And they definitely put out the scare tactics, I think, because they wanted that money, that cash money. Okay, back to what I was saying. So I ended up, getting the blessing from my doctor, which I did want because we had actually built a bond. She took her time with me. We talked. It felt like exactly what I wanted from the experience. But when I realized that I don't even know the percentage. It was just a super slim chance that she was actually going to deliver my baby. I was like, gotta drink the deuces, and get out of here. And she understood. And I told her, it's not you, it's the nurses. I don't know what's going on. And I'm not saying it's nurses everywhere. It was nurses at this hospital. And if you're in Vancouver, Washington, and you want to know what hospital I was at, I will tell you. But I'm not going to say it because it's not important to even say, right? So, anyways, I called the birthing center. I tell them my story. I tell them why I want to switch so bad. They are, they make sure that I'm low risk. I had one issue, and we're going to get into that in a second. But they wanted to make sure that I was low risk and that I could deliver. So they were waiting to get like all my medical records. Once they got all of that stuff, we talked finances and everything like that. It was it was a go. It was a go. Part of it was covered by my insurance, which was a change from previous. It's a new birthing center, and they're the only freestanding birthing center in my area, I believe, in Vancouver, Washington. So it wasn't attached to a hospital or anything like that. And so once everything checked out, I switched over, started having my appointments, and just absolutely fell in love with the entire experience. The appointments are an hour long. They take your time. We go through, not just the pregnancy, but like what's going on with me. One of the things that I really loved was how they felt for the baby. Like they really like got in there and felt them, and like I loved that because they told me where he was, and I was really curious because I knew he was in an odd position. It's my fourth. I hope I said that word. Now we're talking about my fourth baby, so switch to now. I think I said that. I think I transitioned. Okay. So, anyways, so once I got in, one of the things that came up was my iron and my hemoglobin. So, in all of my pregnancies, I get extremely anemic to the point where I need iron infusions. And so iron IV infusions. And so I typically get those like 2 months in advance. And this is when all the miracles and the blessings start to happen. So listen up. I am so sassy when I record. I apologize for making you, like commanding you to do these things. But I don't know why I get sassy. It's like, anyways, okay. So dang, now I done lost my train of thought. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I get extremely anemic. Now, normally I get the infusions at least 2 months before I have the baby so that they are, so that my body is acclimated and I'm ready to deliver because the fear is losing too much blood. In this pregnancy, there was a miscommunication. So I did not get the infusions until late in my pregnancy. I want to say let's see, I went to Vegas in April. I started getting them like the last week of April, and I was due the last week of May. So really, really close, really cutting it close. Did not know if my body was going to acclimate well. I say that because at the birthing center, the rule is that my hemoglobin needed to be at a 10. And when they took my hemoglobin, it was at an 8. It was 8.8 exactly, I believe. I did not think that my hemoglobin was going to get up because I didn't know how it worked. I thought I was going to move super slow. But my body actually took very well to the infusions. Another thing that ended up happening, so before I tell what happened with that, when I finished my infusions, I had 4 this time. Normally I get 3, I had 4 this time. When I got my infusions on the last day, the doctor that it's over it, she comes to me and she's taking my IV out. She comes to me. I'm so dramatic. But she's taking my IV out and then she was like, it's a good thing that you got in when you got the infusions. And I'm like, why? She's like, because there's a shortage. You can't find this kind anywhere. And I'm like, what? Y'all, I could have cried. Like, it was one thing to get them so close to having the baby, but it was another thing to be told that I almost missed having it at all. Miracle. The other reason why that was such a big deal was because in my third pregnancy with Apollos, they switched the type of iron IV infusion that I have been getting with my other 2 pregnancies, and I had a reaction. We don't know if I'm allergic, but I write down that I'm allergic because of the reaction that I had. I hate saying it, but I think it kind of was like a near death experience. My heart rate dropped. I blacked out. I could not breathe. It was crazy. Couldn't even believe that it was happening to me. And my body reacted so quick within seconds. Didn't even get a lot of drops in. Within seconds, I had that reaction. And so I wasn't nervous going in getting it back, but again, it was just like the fact that I got the kind that I needed, just got it in time. And then on top of that, my hemoglobin went up each week. We were all on edge because they really wanted me to have the baby there. I really wanted to have the baby there. My husband really wanted us to have the baby there. And so we were like crossing our fingers and they took my blood every week. And so it went up. And by I think 39 weeks, it had reached to 10. So I was all set and good to go. So let's talk about the day that I had that little baby. His due date was May 31st. I started having contractions on May 31st at like 1 a.m. So I started having contractions kind of actually, let me go back. I actually started having contractions at like 8 or 9 o'clock p.m., but they weren't intense. They started to pick up, and around 1 a.m. is when they got stronger. And then I went into the birthing center about 5, I think 5 or 6 a.m. We woke up our kids. We went into the birthing center because I was afraid of having that baby at home or in the car. That's not the life I want. That wasn't the story I wanted to tell. So I was on it. I was like, I'd rather be there and it be you not ready than to be in one of those places or at the store, in the parking lot. Nope. No. So we went to the birthing center. I think I was 3 or 4 centimeters dilated, which I was happy about. I didn't want to hear that nothing was happening because I would have been sad, especially with how strong those contractions were. My contractions ended up slowing down when I got to the birthing center. So I laid down and I rested because I did not sleep the entire night with having those contractions. And also, I'm this Little TMI, but I'm not gonna say it. You will understand what I mean when I say this. Chipotle. I had Chipotle the night before, so I was up in the middle of the night. You get my drift. Okay, so I was super tired. Um, and so I slept. My doula came. I slept there for a few hours, and then about 9 or 10 o'clock, I was like, in the morning, 9 or 10 a.m. I said I want to go home, and I'll just labor at home until I'm ready to come back. Cause I'm a labor at home girl. That doesn't bother me. I like laboring at home. I wanted to be at home, so I went back. I didn't want to be in the birthing center for a long time, just like I didn't want to be in the hospital for a long time. So I came home, I ate, did school with my kid, my oldest son. I, just kind of just hung out a little bit. One of the things that my midwives and the doula recommended to me was to go for a walk and do this little sidewalk thing where you put your foot down and up like uneven. So I didn't want to do that. They were like, be careful when you're ready, do that. I'm not, you've been told a lot of things. So I didn't think it was really going to work. So we go on a walk, and then we go on a short walk around my neighborhood, and I start doing that, and my contractions start going crazy. Okay, crazy. So and if I have the screenshot, I'll put it in. So I was like, okay, let's take a nap. We were all gonna take a nap because we knew the baby was gonna come that day. I honestly thought the baby was not gonna come on his due date. It just no, right? I should make myself a meme because that felt like a meme moment. Like I should have entered something, and yet I did it myself. What? Anyways, so we go home. We put the boys down. I get in the bed. It's about around 5 o'clock. I send that screenshot to my doula of my contractions, but I also feel the pressure down below, and I'm like, yeah, no, we gotta go. So I told my doula, and at the same time I said that, my doula was like, you need to go back. I'm on my way back. We like, no, we gotta go. So the birthing center is only 5 minutes from my house. We pack our kids up. My husband drops me off so he can drop the kids off. I get to the birthing center. I'm like 5 centimeters, I think I was. I told my husband missed the third birth. So it's really important that he did not lollygag. He just, okay. So he dropped the kids off and came back. I do not labor short. I have a good healthy amount of labor. Like I said, I started having those contractions 7, 8 o'clock at night. By this time, it was about 5 o'clock. My contractions definitely picked up. They were steady, they were strong. What happens to me though is that while I labor for a while, once my baby's ready to come out, my baby's ready to come out. And that's the part that I was afraid of. So I tested GBS positive again, and I needed to get the antibiotics. This time I was able to get them. So I put my hand up because that's where they put the IV. So they were working to do that. That took a little bit of time. As I'm doing that, I'm having lots of back labor because the baby is actually OP and he's facing up instead of facing my back. My doula was doing an amazing job of helping my back and just helping me through those contractions. I started to get nauseous because that's how strong it was, and that back labor just makes me nauseous. She gave me peppermint on a cotton ball, and I promise you the nausea just went away. So right around that time, I was like on a birthing ball, doing all the things. It was so cool. It's just such a different experience than being in the hospital. And so right around that time, I was like, I kept asking like, can I get in the water? Because they had already filled up the tub and it was so warm, and I just wanted that relief. So I get in the water. As I'm getting in the water, I think I had like one contraction kind of hunching over because I didn't know how to sit in the tub. It was pretty big. And so then I finally sit down. I sit down as I'm having a contraction. Pew! My water breaks. Like my water breaks, and you can. I wish I could have gotten on camera. In the water, it goes pew, and as soon as it does that, he's coming, and I'm like, ah! Like he's literally coming out. And so my midwives, they come over. They're checking, like they're listening to him at the same time of me, trying to push him out, make sure his heart rate's doing okay. All of that I seen on the video, y'all. I didn't realize she was doing any of this. So I don't want to make it seem like I was that alert. I was not. Okay. My husband comes over. We were kind of chilling because I was 5 centimeters at 5 o'clock. It was only 6 o'clock, like an hour. Okay. And I'm pushing him out. Yeah. So my water breaks of that. I had a few pushes. And then they were asking me if I wanted to get on all fours, which I had told them in one of the appointments that I wanted to deliver on all fours. Now, the thing is, because he was OP, he was turning as I was having him, which I didn't realize in the moment that's what was happening, but I knew something was happening. And so when I got on all fours, I could hear them saying push, but I think without the epidural, what I'm able to do is really focus on my body and know what's going on. And so because I could feel what was going on, I didn't push. I just paused for a second, and his little face got stuck. Not like stuck bad. He just was kind of stalled there. And then I went in for the last few pushes, and he came out. The total of time that it took from the time my water broke to him coming out was 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Got the whole thing on video, so I know the time is right. I had him at 6:52. Now, let's just talk about a few things here as we wrap this thing up. Number one, I wanted a May baby really bad. My husband's birthday is in May. I already have a July. I'm in August, September. My other son's in October. But I really wanted a May baby, a spring baby. He came on his due date. Great. And then number two, he came on his due date. I forget the percentage, but it's like 4% of babies come on their due date. What? And this is my fourth baby. My other babies were either late or early, not on time. Okay, they on CP time. All right. But he came on his due date. He came in May, which I absolutely love. My husband was set to leave in a few days after that because he needed to go for an internship orientation. And so I really, really wanted him to come before he left because I did not want to wait till after he left. I was tired. So he came before my husband left, which was amazing. And then I wanted an evening baby, but I didn't want like a 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Literally, these are the things I said. I didn't want a late baby. I wanted an evening baby. He came at 6:52. The sun was just going down. It was a warm day. It was so beautiful. And at my birthing center, you can choose your room. And so I chose this room that was in the back, and it's yellow and blue and green. And green was the color that I have for the baby. I always have a color for my kids. And so I had like this green picked out for him. And so the room was just beautiful. The sun setting. No one else was delivering at the time, so it was just us. It was just like everything literally worked out perfectly. And I don't like saying that word, but when I tell you guys that to a T, my placenta came out delivered. I didn't lose an abnormal amount of blood, which we were kind of nervous about with my hemoglobin and my iron and everything like that. I mean, like everything was just beautiful. They made me smoothies. Shout out to Jada. The smoothies were amazing. I was able to eat afterwards. When I had the epidural, my first two, I was not able to eat. I'd lost my appetite in a bad way. But with my last two births, not having the epidural, my appetite was still there. In the hospital, I was just turned off because the food was nasty and the nurses were nasty too. But my fourth baby, I had those smoothies like I was talking about. When I got home, I had some barbecue chicken. Like I couldn't believe I was eating. I couldn't believe that like after 4 hours, I was ready to go home. I was actually ready to go home. Came home, got in my bed. We had our house clean, so it was just nice. My boys got to meet their brother that day. It was just a beautiful experience overall. Being able to have people that supported me, were attentive to me, and I didn't have to feel like they were rushing in and out, going to somebody else. And even if there was somebody else laboring there, it would have worked out differently than a hospital too. So I want to make that clear as well. My doula was amazing. My husband was amazing. Even them like coaching him and telling him, hey, put your hand here or do this or help her flip over, like whatever it was. Like they were very calm. They were very attentive. It was a 10 out of 10, highly recommend. I've always wanted to have a water birth, but I didn't think I was going to be able to do it because I am an epidural girly, okay? Never thought that I would have babies without any medication. What? When people would ask me with my first two births if I had them naturally, I always would say yes because they naturally came out of my vagina. So I don't care if you have medicine, no medicine, a C-section, you have that baby naturally because pregnancy and birth is a natural experience, right? Like I don't like the comparison. I don't like all of the little like mom battles that we have. I say that because you do what's best for you. I am not here to persuade you to go one way or the other. I have friends that are like, I'm going to a hospital birthing center in my thing. I ain't never shamed them. I have friends that go and get that epidural. We was high fiving it up. I was like, girl, get that epidural if you need it. I have friends that for their first birth had a home birth. I have friends that, want to have water births and want, this is why I'm, telling this story so they can hear, right? Like you can do it. I think that that's the encouraging piece, right? It's like, if you are thinking about it, it is mind over matter. You can do it. And mentally, I had to just keep telling myself, I can do this. I kept thinking about my friends that I knew who had their babies for the first time at home. I'm like, think about how brave they were. Think about how strong they were, that they were able to give birth at home for their first time. Like, you can do this. It's your fourth baby. This your one, two, three, fourth baby, which is insane. Um, yeah, like you can do it. And I feel like we went out with a bang. Omega Amor is his name. He's the last love. He's potentially my last baby. It's like, no, 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 he is. I think, but no, he is our last baby. And so, we really went out with a bang. And I know sometimes it feels like you went out and said you had such a good experience. You should do it again. For me, I feel like I had such a good experience. I don't want to chance it. I don't want to chance it. So I don't know. But overall, like I said, I will link all the links to the birthing center. I'll tag my doulas on my Instagram. I will tag my doula, tag my midwives. Even my doctor at the Vancouver clinic, Dr. Ruth, she's amazing. If you're in this area, like 10 out of 10, I recommend her. She really took her time. She was very patient. She's very knowledgeable. But overall, the message that I have after four babies is get what you want. What I wanted was peace. What I got was peace. I fought hard to have peace. I wanted a peaceful birthing experience. I always knew after my first that starts with who you have in the room. I don't care if that's your mama, your daddy, your sister, your cousin. If you do not want them in the room, if they stress you out, get them out. It's your pregnancy, it's your birth. And like I said, because it's mind over matter, you want to be focused, you don't want to be irritated, you don't want to be frustrated. And that's why I didn't want to have a hospital birth, because I didn't want to have this go. Okay, sorry. Now, one thing I forgot to say was with my third, that was my first time delivering at that hospital. My hospital with my first two was absolutely amazing. I would go there again. I tried to, but we moved and it was too far. So, with my third, that was my first time at that hospital. So, I didn't know what to expect. The second time around with this last baby, I knew what to expect. So, I already went in with a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of anxiousness, I would say. And so, because of that, I was a little apprehensive about having him there. And when it was confirmed, I was like, yep, nope, not doing this. Like, not doing this. And I'm so glad that I reached out to the birthing center, even though I was so far along. So thankful that they took me in. So thankful that the infusions worked out just in time. Like, everything literally lined up perfectly. Like, why risk it and do it again? Let's just raise these babies, right? Like, yeah. Don't know where that came from, but here we go. So, but here we go. I need to stop. Anyways, I had an amazing experience, is what I'm trying to say. I had an absolutely amazing experience. I I think I might go back through and share my other birth experiences if you all want them. If there's any questions you all have, specifics about things. Oh, last thing is that with the epidural, I tore with both my babies, the first two. Without the epidural, I did not tear. My third and fourth, I did not tear at all. Now, my first two, the tears were very minimal, 1 inch tears. I think that's what they are, like 1 centimeter, whatever it is, the number one tear for the first two. And then I had no tears for the third and the fourth one. And so I'm not sure if that's a correlation, but without the epidural, my body just felt better. It really did. And I was forced into it with my third. I made the choice with my fourth. And again, I never thought that would be me, but it was. So I'm not here to like preach a certain message or anything like that. Again, I'm just here to share my story, and I'm just here to like encourage those who need that little push and encouragement, that if it's something you want to do and you're doubting yourself and you don't think you can do it, get the right support team, interview the birthing centers, get to know them, and make sure that you mesh with them and you get along with them. If they have good spirits and you have a good spirit and you all mesh well, it's gonna go great. My midwives were amazing. I just wrapped up my appointments with them. They came to me the day after. They loved on my baby when I had him. They took so many pictures and just held him, because I knew I was going to be holding him for a long time. So I didn't hold him that much the day I had him. I let them love on him and play with them and measure him and do all the things. Oh, and he was 9 pounds. He was 9 pounds when he came out of me. My biggest baby, when he pooped some of that weight off when he came out. And so he was 8 pounds, 6 ounces when we weighed him. And so that's what we marked down. But he was about 9 pounds when he came out of me. So not only did I have a unmedicated birth in the water. I delivered my biggest baby with no medicine and no tears, y'all, like crazy. So, anyways, you can do it if you want to. But if you want to go to the hospital and have the epidural, go to the hospital and have the epidural. Just make sure in whatever circumstance you're in, you speak up for yourself and you have the people around you speak up for you. Get the labor that you want, have the pregnancy that you desire. That is okay. It's an experience, and honestly, it's an experience that does not last. That was 9 months of my life and it's over. It's over. And I've 4 kids in and now I'm saying that I'm done and it feels like the years just flew by. Enjoy it. Get the memories that you want, have the experience that you want. I absolutely loved it. I don't know why I'm having trouble ending this video. Maybe it's just because my social media meter is a little low with postpartum and just not being able to do all the things right. But anyways, no, I let me know if you have any questions. I'll do a follow-up video. If I don't do mom content, that's just not my thing because I don't like the mom world, like all the pressures of it. So, but if you guys want like mom stuff, I don't mind sharing. But I don't want to push stuff on you. There's a lot of moms out there already that are doing mom content. So, yeah. But thank you. That is my story of why I switched from the hospital to the birthing center at 36 weeks. My first water birth experience, my first non-hospital experience, my biggest baby, just how the everything legit worked out so beautifully, and we are absolutely in love with him, and I am super thankful. If I were to accidentally have a baby, fifth baby, I would do it again. I don't think I would do home birth just because I don't think that's what I want. I know I could though. I told myself I was like I could have a home birth because I love laboring at home, but I think I liked being at the birthing center. But who knows? Maybe I will try home birth. I don't know. Well, I guess we won't see because it's my last baby, or is it?